when you think about that connection of a mother and her newborn, right? They're very connected. And I remember going to him and I said to him, I'm not going to leave you. I will find a way to stay. And I didn't know what to do. So I just started praying. I started saying, it's not my time. I need help. My kids still need me. I'm not ready yet. And at that moment, I was transported back into the operating room. Jesus came in as my best friend. Being raised Catholic, I felt like I needed to worship Jesus or confess to Jesus or do, anything along these lines. But that was not the Jesus that walked in that day. The Jesus that walked in that day truly came in as my best friend here to help me. And as he came in, the operating room lit up in this beautiful golden white light. And the next thing I knew, I was waking up in the post-op and my 45-minute procedure had turned into a 3.5-hour emergency surgery because they had ruptured my uterus in 2 places and they had missed an artery by 1 millimeter.
Hello, Michelle Clare. Welcome to the show. I'm truly honored by you joining me and looking forward to our conversation. How are you feeling today?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, excellent. I'm doing great too, and I'm so happy that you're here. Every week we bring you powerful stories about life after death, awakening, and what it means to go beyond the illusion to discover your true self. And if that resonates, you'll love what's coming. Today's guest is Michelle Clare, a psychic medium and angel communicator who's had 3 near-death experiences, 3 NDEs. In 2000, she woke to find her grandmother holding her as a 12-foot angel with wings of light stood nearby. And in 2006, during surgery, her white German shepherd appeared, and then Jesus entered the OR like a friend, flooding the room with light. 2011, a ladder fell, froze in time. 3 guides asked if she wanted to stay or go, and a red and gold angel shifted the moment that saved her life. Later, a 9/11 recording validated what her 5-year-old son did that day and changed his self-story forever. We'll explore what she saw, what it means for the rest of us, and how to hear guidance in our own lives. Michelle, it's a joy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I am really excited to be here to share my story with your listeners and help people realize that we are not living this life alone.
Ah, well, that is a great way to start this podcast for sure. That is comforting. Now, I know you and I met at the IANDS conference about a month or so ago in Chicago, which is the International Association of Near-Death Studies. And you presented on stage and I saw your story and it was remarkable and fascinating. I know people are going to love it. They're not only going to love it because they love these NDE stories and all the services that you bring as well. It's amazing because it brings them comfort because a lot of folks have had folks pass away and they're not sure what's going on the other side. And these sorts of things really help. So I know we've got 3 NDEs to talk about, so we should certainly get underway. I'd like to hand the microphone and the stage to you to begin with the first NDE.
Yeah, well, thank you. My first NDE happened in April of 2000. And at that point in time, I had been married a couple years, no children or anything. We were in the hospital, this was in Tucson, Arizona, visiting my sister-in-law who had just had a baby that day. And I was in the hallway talking to her RN, who happened to be my friend from high school. And as we were talking, I had a massive seizure. I don't remember the seizure, but what I remember is opening my eyes and seeing my grandma holding my head in her lap. She looked like the youngest, healthiest version of herself that I could remember. And I absolutely remember being just engulfed in bliss, peacefulness, timelessness, feeling like I was absolutely perfect, exactly the way that I was. And as I laid there and just looked at my grandma's beautiful young face, her smiling at me, I noticed that next to her was this 12-foot angel. And this angel, her energy, it just almost pulled me in. Like I felt myself being pulled into her. And as I looked at her, I had been raised Catholic, and we all know angels have feathers for wings. So I wanted to see these feathered wings. And as I looked at her, what I realized was that her wings were really made of light. They were somewhat like the aurora borealis. They moved. They seemed to span eternity. I never actually saw the end of them, but they were very much vibrant and alive. And as I was laying there looking at her, I remember thinking, what is your name? And she answered me in my head. She said, my name is Madeline, and I'm one of your guardian angels. And I was surprised. At that point in my life, I didn't know anything about telepathic communication, but I just remember being in this complete bliss, happiness. I was not worried about anything. The next thing I know, I hear someone yelling, code, code, code. Because I was in the hospital and had quit breathing during the seizure, they were already calling the code team. And the next thing I know, I was back in my body, and it felt like I jumped out a 2-story building. I felt the almost fall, if you would, but then I went from feeling light as a feather into feeling like a 10,000 pound block of cement. The density was so different being back on planet Earth. I remember going to move my arm and thinking, oh, my arm feels like it weighs 500 pounds. Everything was so much more heavy and dense here. At that point in time, I didn't know the term near-death experience. I was admitted into the hospital. They monitored my heart and did brain scans, and they never found why I had the seizure, and I never had another one again. But what I did know as I was getting discharged and leaving was that this experience I had with my grandmother and this guardian angel, Madeline, was more vivid than the experience I was having in the hospital or my daily life. But I did not know the term near-death experience. So I just knew I had this experience. And without knowing what to do with it, it took me a couple weeks. I shared it with my mom. And my mom said, well, I know you think that happened, but she couldn't understand how this happened, and I couldn't either. And so I just kind of put that on the back burner and continued on with life. And that was my first one, but it really taught me a few things about the other side. So number one, angels are real. They are absolutely here to help us. They are assigned to us at birth. None of us are living this life alone. But not only that, heaven knew I was coming that day. My grandma and that guardian angel were literally waiting for me. I had no idea I was going, but they knew that I was. And so I was welcomed with love and compassion and my beautiful, loving grandmother.
Well, that's amazing. And I know what I heard in there. You said your mom gave you some feedback on whether it could be real or not. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, what's interesting about that is you saw your grandmother. So did your mom ask about her mom, which is your grandmother?
She did. She said to me, what did she look like? How did she seem? She was very curious about it, but she just couldn't understand how this happened or what it looked like. My mom was an RN, so she would always wanted like the scientific understanding of how this could have happened. I didn't have that at that point in time to share with her. But yeah, she was curious about it. She was very curious about it. She didn't dismiss it. She just didn't know how to make it fit in with what she comprehended or understood.
Well, and I think that's it. Everyone works off the basis of understanding they're operating with at the time. Some RNs that work more maybe in an emergency room or an intensive care area are going to be more familiar with the transition, sort of the death, and they might have experienced some of these with shared death experiences or just heard these stories from so many of the folks that have come and gone. So it is interesting that heaven was ready for you, you said. So this wasn't an accident. You had one seizure in your life that actually gave you this NDE, and they were waiting for you. It was a chance for you and your grandmother and this angel to come together. What do you think was the purpose? What was the takeaway for you, and how did that change your life?
I really started to understand that it was kind of this awakening to the angelic realm. So with the angel communication that I do and the messages that come through with them, it really cleared up the angelic channel. And I was able to just be like, they are real. Not only are they real, they are so much bigger than we imagine them being. And so it was a beautiful gift in that way. It also showed me that, no one dies alone. So I don't care if you are in the middle of the Sahara Desert. You have loved ones in spirit, you have angels, you have life guides, you have other, souls, beings, animals that are waiting to just greet you and welcome you home.
That's comforting to know that no one dies alone. But I think what I also heard come from you was that no one lives alone.
Yes.
They have that angel with them throughout their life. How can you benefit from that? How can you connect to that angel in some way?
Yeah. So it's really important for us to know this because there are so many times in our human experience where we feel completely alone, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever it is. We just feel very isolated and alone. And because of this, when we start communicating with our angels, there's nothing magical you have to do, right? Let's start this connection. Let's start this channel. Ask for their help. Ask for their guidance. Ask for them to show you that they're around and supporting you. Our angels work differently than our life guides. They really come in for protection and love, whereas our life guides come in to keep us on the plan that our soul had when we chose to be here.
Okay. Well, and I know we have 2 more NDEs to go to talk to share the stories. And I know you're very, very connected on the other side now as you're a psychic medium and probably in many more ways as well. How would you characterize your ability to connect to the spiritual side at this time after the first NDE?
So I already had the gift a little bit. When my grandfather passed when I was 12 years old, I noticed that he and I were still communicating, but it definitely enhanced my ability to connect to the other side. And not only did it do that, it kind of, like I said, opened up that angel channel. So I felt like I had a more clear connection with the angelic realm.
Nice. Okay. So that's good to know. You were connected to your grandfather so closely when he left and you were young, you felt you were still communicating with him in some way. So you already had a hole in the veil already to reach the other side. And then the heavens said, well, you know what? We want to open this veil up even more. We're going to give you a glimpse. So now you have a knowing, and this is going to change, pivot your life to go along this new trajectory. And then for some reason along the way, they suggested, well, we're going to have 2 more NDEs with you for sure. So
Right.
Let's hear about, lucky you. Yeah. Let's hear about the second one.
Yeah, I mean, why have one when you could have 3, right? I mean, come on. The second one happened in May of 2006. And at that point in time, I had 3 little kids. So I had a 5-year-old, 2.5-year-old, and a 6-week-old infant, my son. I had a lot of complications after I had him. So about 6 weeks out, they said, we need to do a DNC, which is a procedure where they clear out the uterus. They said it would be an outpatient procedure. I had been in the hospital the majority of the following 6 weeks because of the infection and the IV antibiotics and everything that I needed. And they just said, 45 minutes, outpatient procedure, you'll be done, you'll be fine, you can finally go home. Oh my gosh, that was exactly what I wanted to hear, that I could finally be done, out of the hospital and go home. The night before the surgery, I had a pit in my stomach and everything in me was telling me that I should not do this. But I remember 45 minutes, piece of cake, and I would be going home. So I went ahead and I went in. I counted backwards for the anesthesiologist. I had had anesthesia before. And what I want to say is when I've had it prior to this event, and I've had it since then too, by the way, it's just a blank. There's no dream. There's nothing. There's just a blank space in my life. I have nothing to put in that space. However, this day during that surgery, I remember counting backwards. The next thing I know, I look over and my 102-pound white German Shepherd, who had passed away a couple years before, walked into the operating room, laid her head on my gurney, looked at me, kind of gave me her smile that she would give me, and we were gone. And we were on this phenomenal beach. This beach had colors that we don't have here. The light was different than what we have here. I want to say there were emotions that we don't have here, but like higher vibrational frequency emotions. Every molecule, every piece of sand, every drop of water in the ocean was radiating light and love from the inside out. It's very similar to when you look at a tree and the sun is behind it and it looks just right and it looks like the light is coming from within. Everything in this realm lit up that way. And I'm looking at my beautiful white Shepherd, and she looks like she's about 2 years old, healthy, her fur's glowy, looking great. And we are running on the beach, telepathically communicating. And I can feel that she's so happy that I'm there. We're just enjoying our time together, running and running. And then all of a sudden I start to notice, not getting hot, not getting tired, not getting thirsty. The sand feels like clouds. Like I started to perceive the difference. And as I started to perceive the difference, I kind of started to have this awareness like, oh, this is not, a typical run. Well, here's the funny thing about a typical run. Human Michelle, I don't even run. I tell my friends, like, if you see me running, call 911. That's an emergency. That is not me going out for a jog. But here I am in the second NDE running on the beach with my dog, loving every moment of it. As I'm on the beach with this dog, she's just glowing almost in her energy. I can feel my son, who was 6 weeks old and at the house with my mom, calling to me because he knew I was getting ready to leave. When you think about that connection of a mother and her newborn, right? They're very connected. And I remember going to him and I said to him, I'm not going to leave you. I will find a way to stay. And I didn't know what to do. So I just started praying. I started saying, I need time. It's not my help. It's not my time. I need help. My kids still need me. I'm not ready yet. And at that moment, I was transported back into the operating room. Jesus came in. Jesus came in as my best friend. Being raised Catholic, I felt like I needed to worship Jesus or confess to Jesus or do, anything along these lines. But that was not the Jesus that walked in that day. The Jesus that walked in that day truly came in as my best friend here to help me. And as he came in, the operating room lit up in this beautiful golden white light. And the next thing I knew, I was waking up in the post-op, and my 45-minute procedure had turned into a 3.5-hour emergency surgery because they had ruptured my uterus in 2 places and they had missed an artery by 1 millimeter. It was a really challenging recovery from all of that happening. And I come back in and I come back into this body that is exhausted, wiped out, been fighting infection, now had this, emergency surgery on top of everything else. I have 3 little kids at home. And so I've had this amazing experience. Again, I don't know the term near-death experience. I just know that it was more vivid than my life. When I tried to talk about it after surgery, they thought I was hallucinating from the anesthesia. So nobody really took too much, weight with what I was saying. So I come back in and it took me about 4 months to get back to 80% of my physical recovery. And because of that, I take this experience and I put it again on the back burner because I don't know what to do with it. And I've got 3 little kids and I'm just trying to survive.
Wow. Okay. Now, what I'm hearing in there also is that Jesus came in and met you after you went back into the body. Is that right?
Yeah.
And while you were on the other side with the dog, I've heard this many times before, is we can see objects in this physical manifestation because light reflects off of it. Okay, so it bounces off and we can see the frequencies that we can see based on it bouncing off objects. But on the other side, it feels like objects emanate the light. They are the source of light. And so not only that, they're higher resolution. Like if you walk into a store with all the televisions on the wall and you see the 4K and then the new 8K and the 16K, and it's like so high resolution, it almost hurts the eyes. It feels like that's the real side, and this is kind of like the dream side a little bit, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and so when you come back here then, Jesus chooses to meet you here. And it's interesting that you said as a friend, not someone that you needed to worship. So that I'm sure was very comforting. How would you describe the interaction then between the two of you at that point?
At that point, it truly felt like a longtime friend, really just here to help me. How can I help you? What do you need? Let's make this right. That buddy that you can depend on, that was absolutely the relationship that I became aware of that truly existed at that point in time. As I'm doing readings for people, I still have a connection with Jesus. He'll come in, during readings, and he's really quite funny. We don't give him enough credit. Like, we think he needs to be very reverent and don't smile. And he's got a great sense of humor. But that was my ability to see him really like soul to soul instead of human, looking to someone that I thought I should worship.
Well, I like that. And I've heard this before too, that when you do get connected on the other side, or even the way you are now, that you'll find Jesus has more of a sense of humor than you might anticipate. And so, because, there's pure love there, but But love can have a sense of humor also, for sure. Sometimes it's fear and anger that can't have a sense of humor, right? So that's kind of goes with love, I would think. Now, I would ask you this question too. When you were over there, you somehow got connected to your 6-week child, your youngest one, that said, what's going on? I need you to come back here. Yeah. And you knew you weren't going to stay. As much as you were feeling unconditional love, you said, no, I'm going to have to come back. I've got children, especially the 6-week-old. I would ask this, going forward since then, have you had any more of a special bond with the 6-week-old child, the youngest one, than the others, or was that just that one moment?
I felt like that was that moment. All 3 of my kids, I will tell you, I believe that part of their soul plan was literally to anchor me to this earth, because every time I come back, it seems like it has to do with them, But with him, yeah, he and I have had special situations. He was pivotal in my 3rd NDE, which we'll talk about in a moment. But absolutely, when I see them and I think of my soul agreements with my kids, it was truly to keep me coming back here.
Well, thank goodness. If you're destined for a life with 3 NDEs, you need some anchor points for sure. And it's really interesting to see that the 6-week-old was instrumental in the 2nd NDE as well as the 3rd. I can't wait to hear about the 3rd.
Absolutely. So my 3rd one happened on 11/1/2011. So for people who like ones, 11/1/11, there's a lot of ones there, new beginnings, all of those things, right? In the house that I lived in, I had 14-foot ceilings, and about 12 feet off the ground, I had battery-operated candles, and every few weeks I'd have to change the batteries, put them back up, and then they'd turn on and glow. So my younger 2 kids were home. At this point in time, my kids are 5, 8, and 10, and my 10-year-old was in an after-school program. So I said to the kids, I'm going to climb up this ladder, put the candle up, and after that, we're going to go get your sister from school. I remember starting to climb up toward the top of the ladder. And as I got closer to the top, it shifted and I felt it start to shift. And the only thing I could think is, this is going to hurt. In that moment that I thought that, I was literally ripped out of my body, not in a painful way, but fast. Think bungee cord, kind of grabbed in and grabbed out, right? Very quickly pulled out of my body. I was turned around, facing my body in the ladder, suspended in the air. And I was standing with these 3 people that felt like close family or friends, but I didn't know who they were. One was an Asian man, an Egyptian woman, and a Hawaiian man. And as I stood there with them in this timeless space, looking at my body and the ladder suspended in the air, like a freeze frame in a movie, they said to me, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I had enough awareness still about me that I was trying to understand how this was going to work, because I knew my body was going to hit the floor in about a second or less. But I also knew I had forever to decide what I wanted to do. No one was rushing me. It was literally this moment where time stood still. And as I was watching my body in the ladder in the air, I saw this beautiful angel come in dressed in this deep red and gold. It was a different angel than Madeline. And the moment that I saw this angel, I knew it was here to either take me home to this heavenly realm or to shift something so that I could stay longer. And as I'm watching this whole scene, I am drawn to my younger 2 kids who are in the kitchen, and they were filling out their Christmas list. We had just gotten the Toys R Us catalog November 1st, right? They're writing down what they wanted. And as I see my kids, I have this understanding that I need to stay, that I wasn't done being their mom. I wanted to be here to be a part of their life longer, and there was more that I needed to do. As I make this decision, I am downloaded with information and I'm told, okay, but when you go back, you have to work as a medium and do the work that you actually came to do. There's no more ignoring it or sweeping it under the rug. I was told that my marriage would most likely end in divorce and that I had more trauma ahead. And I remember being in this heavenly realm, getting told these things. They weren't telling me I was coming back to rainbows and unicorns and butterflies. I was getting told, hey, it's going to be hard. And I still remember being okay with it and saying, okay, send me in. I want to go. I want this opportunity, even though there are going to be challenges with it. So I come back into the body. I fall. I hit the back of my head on the corner of the granite island. So I had a 5.5-inch skull fracture, a brain bleed. I lost my taste, my smell, my equilibrium, part of my hearing. But I literally survived the fall by 1/2 inch because I missed my brainstem by 1/2 inch. And that was the difference of me staying here on the earth plane or going home to the heavenly realm.
A 1/2 inch. Well, the last one was by 1 millimeter. So at least you're widening the gap as you go forward here. So I think that's a good news. And I hope you're done at 3. 3 is probably enough. Things come in threes. That's another lucky number.
Right.
In the middle part of the story, you saw these 3 folks that were there with you, which was an Asian, Egyptian, and Hawaiian. First, how did you know that they were sort of each type of person, and what were their roles in it as you went forward?
I could see that they were taking on the human form to me. So as we transition into spirit world, my grandma showed up in the form that I would recognize. So these were in human form that I would know. What I found out later on was that they were my life guides. But at that point in my life, I literally did not even know the term life guide or spirit guide. So I just knew I was connecting with these 3 people who looked nothing like me, but they knew like they felt like very close family or friends.
Right. Okay. So that was helpful along the way. But yet then an angel in red and gold came in, and that seemed like the boss, right? The one who was going to help you decide and which, how to proceed along each decision that you might make. And so it's interesting at that moment, it's the 3rd NDE and they're going, okay, listen, we've been trying to wake you up. We've been knocking on the door. This is the 3rd time. We're just going to have to tell you outright, you're supposed to go back and be a medium, and have all these spiritual gifts and share those gifts with humanity in many different ways. And I know you got kids and they take a lot of your time. You're going to have to work all this into your schedule here. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to have bumps along the way. And by the way, those bumps that we give you along the way, those are going to be there for you to overcome. So you'll have experiences that you can then share with all the other people in the world that you're helping. It sounds like the angel that was red and gold was very important and very powerful, but it wasn't Jesus, I see.
Correct. Absolutely. And that angel was really there to help facilitate whatever it was that my soul decided. And the other 2, I didn't actually get a choice. I mean, I did pray and ask for a miracle and I did receive that. But this is the only one where it was like, okay, what are you doing? It's either time to step up and hit the ball or get out of the way so someone else can. And that was really the energy of this 3rd NDE. What I love about this is that I clearly remember choosing to be here, right? Even though they were telling me it's not going to be easy. That's part of what we do on a soul level when we choose to come to planet Earth. We know it's not going to be easy. We know it's not going to be all, beach days and sunny skies and all of that. And yet our souls still want the opportunity to have this lifetime.
Oh, that's for sure. And it's interesting. They said, do you want to step up and hit the ball? It's like, it felt to me like you didn't even know that you were necessarily in the game, let alone hit the ball. It's like, oh, okay, good. But then they explained it in great detail. This is what we're expecting. And this is what you chose for the rest of your life. That's your life's mission. So we're going to explain it. And if you sign up for it, then it's your time to do that. So now I would suspect after the 3rd NDE that you've come back with this great detail. Number 1, you are fully aware that the other side is real, high resolution, and their angels are there to help you. 3rd time's a charm. And you also know that you have this beautiful life ahead of helping yourself and others, although it is fraught with landmines all along the way. And that's just a part of the package, right? Yeah. So after number 3, what happened? What shifted inside you? How did you change your life when you still had young children?
So basically what happens is I fall off of the ladder and my younger 2 kids call 911. I am in ICU. I mean, there's a whole recovery process that has to happen. I can't even sit up because my vestibular system was destroyed. So I could not lift my head more than 6 inches. It was like being on every ride at Disneyland at the same time. It was really a lot of physical challenges. The end of January 2012, so a few months later, after I got home, was looking pretty normal, back on my feet doing, I didn't feel good. I wasn't functioning at a normal level, but things were looking pretty normal again. My youngest, Josh, who was 5, started to get depressed because he said, Mom, I didn't do anything to help you. He had tried to call 911, but what we believed was his call hadn't gone through. And I thought maybe he dialed 991, or maybe, it was just so much trauma in the moment. So the end of January, my grandfather, who had passed away when I was 12, came through to me in my first really big mediumship visit since my head injury. And he talked to me about my accident and my injury. And then he talked to me about my son. And him and my son had never met on this earth. They lived decades apart. And he said to me, he's really good with electronics. You need to get the 911 recording. There's something on there you should know. And I was just shocked because I didn't even know I could get the 911 recording at that point in time. So I went to the police station and I ordered it. It took a couple weeks to come in. And I remember putting the CD into the computer to play it. And I hear them say, 911, what's your emergency? And in his little broken voice, my 5-year-old son says, Sophie, what do I say? He was talking to his sister. And he lays the phone down. So for the next minute and a half, the operators are trying to get his attention. And then he says, I'm going to go push the house alarm. And she says, hold on, let me try to call 911 first. She hangs up the phone. She dials 911 and her call goes through too. But we didn't know his call had gone through. And because of my grandfather coming through and sharing this information with me, he came home from kindergarten that day and I said to him, Josh, your call went through, like help was coming. It just lifted this huge weight off of his little shoulders. And I could literally watch him transform in front of my eyes into more confidence. I helped my mom. People were coming because of what I did. And I really at that moment got the gravity of mediumship, of the ability of our loved ones on the other side to help us here while we're still working through these earthly challenges. And so what happened from then was it took me still quite a while to heal. I ended up going to counseling because I needed to talk to someone and tell them, I was talking to dead people. I was getting more messages. And as spirit would have it, they led me to the perfect counselor who said, oh, what a gift. Let's get you a mentor. So then I started mentoring and I've been working professionally as a medium now since 2017.
Wow. Since 2017. So at this recording, that's about 8 years, so that's pretty amazing since back then. It's also amazing to hear the story of Josh, who's only 5 years old, and Sophie, who's only 8 years old. They saw their mom on the ground, in pain, and they knew what 911 was. So good for you to have trained them on that. 5 years old, even just making the call and just them hearing you is one thing, especially when he even said, I'm going to push the house alarm. The 911 folks knew there was some sort of problem. They didn't know what it was yet, but they were, getting the right folks involved and sent on their way. So I'm glad Josh felt a lot better after that. That's key. But you wouldn't even have known to go and sort of confirm that unless your grandfather had come to you and explained this to you. So that was, like you said, your first sort of mediumship. So how did that feel, that conversation? And then what came of that in your next 8 years in your career in that space?
It was one of the most pivotal moments of my life on top of these NDEs, because what I realized is my grandfather on the other side had information that I did not know was available. And what it really did was it drove that fire and that passion in me for mediumship, because I saw it change the life of my son. I saw his energy change, his demeanor shift. And I realized that as I pursued this and the better I got at this, the more I could help others to, number one, first and foremost, connect with their loved ones on the other side, but to receive messages of love, of connection, of healing that are still available to all of us, even if our loved ones are no longer in their physical form.
Right. That's interesting. Now, did you reach out to the grandfather? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like somehow he got your attention and connected to you. What was that experience?
As a medium, I do not see people materialize in front of me, but he literally materialized in front of me. And the first thing I said to him was, it has been so long since I've seen you. And he said, I knew it would seem like that to you. And that just it still shows you the difference between the heavenly realm and the earthly realm. And then he started to talk about my accident and the head injury. And then he was just gone. And so it was beyond powerful. It was one of those, it's etched in my mind as clear as the NDEs.
So he was there, you had that clear experience, and even more so clear than even your future mediumship, because he materialized. So that was powerful. You knew that was real. And it's interesting too, his comment that there is no time on the other side, but we have a lot of time over here, and we think it's a long time to them, it's just instantaneous, I would imagine. Yeah. So from that, now we can go back into kind of your history of your upbringing, because you said you were sort of Catholic upbringing, in church and so forth. And now, but you're doing this mediumship, and these things could be a little bit, complementary, but in a little ways not so complementary. How did that world work for you?
One of the first things I remember about going to CCD or Catholic school, in first grade, my dog passed away, and my teacher told me that my dog didn't go to heaven because dogs didn't have souls. I was crushed. So that is one of the things that I never truly believed that, but the fact that my dog came in the second NDE is just perfect for me. It was like, yes, of course I needed her to come in. One of the things I do love about being raised Catholic, I felt like I had angels, saints, Mother Mary, Jesus, like all of these beings of light who wanted to help me. And as a medium, I know that we all have all of these beings of light that want to help us, life guides, angels, on and on and on, loved ones, right? So in some ways, there were some things that were very compatible. And then in other ways, there were some things that didn't flow quite as well for me. But I think that a lot of people find that. Here's what I will tell you about religion. I'm not against it at all. I think it helps a lot of people have a great relationship to source, to maybe themselves and all of that. But I would just say that I also think it's so much bigger than there's any religion out there that gives it credit for. And as a medium, I had this conversation with my mom because my mom is very, very Catholic. Very religious. I said to her, Mom, no one's ever come in a reading and been like, I just got out of purgatory. Tell my family, And my mom was not happy when I said that. But I will tell you that as a medium, I've never experienced that.
That's like, I just got out of purgatory and I'm on parole. But, right. I got visitation or something. No. So let me ask you if this feels true to you, as I talk to a lot of people about this, and I come away with the feeling that the other side, there's no time over there. And that's where your grandfather said, everything is just sort of now. And yet there's no sort of fear and lack and anger and negative energy. It's all pure love on that side. In fact, it's such pure love and all connected, and we are all one, that the only way we can have these sort of life lessons that we're experiencing now is to get out of there, to come to this side, to cross over with a veil of forgetfulness into an area that has all sorts of polarity and negative for a reason, for us to experience something negative that we couldn't on the other side. And all of that allows us to gain wisdom, learn these lessons, take this away from us as we go transition back to the other side, to have wisdom and experiences that we couldn't have anywhere else. So we come here to this earthly plane to do that. Does that resonate? I certainly sort of walk away with that message as I talk to a lot of folks.
Absolutely. Our souls choose to come to planet Earth for the contrast. You want contrast? Turn on the TV, drive down the freeway. It's everywhere, right? Go to the park, see who's picketing what that day. This is a planet full of contrast, and our souls want to come here to be able to experience that, to learn and grow. And it's not that we're not learning and growing in the heavenly realm, but think about learning something like vengeance. And this is something that I've talked about. So for me, going on with becoming a medium, it absolutely did cause a divide in my marriage. And my husband at the time had a very hard time with it. And years later, my guides were right. We ended in divorce. Through that divorce process, I, as a human, got to experience what it was like to receive the feeling of vengeance from someone, right? Was not a it was a very bad divorce. Anyway, having said that, on a soul level, this was something that he and I would have agreed to, because in the heavenly realm, you don't understand vengeance. It's an idea. It's not that you can't understand it, but you don't know what it's like to be the receiver of it, right? So part of my soul agreement with him would have been that as we divorced, because I followed my path as a medium, I would then feel this from him and learn what that felt like. So we come here for the contrast. I mean, and speaking of contrast, so after that marriage ended, I did fall in love again. And I had an amazing life partner that, we were planning on spending our life together. And a little over 2 years ago, he passed from suicide. So again, the contrast. I had found a love that I didn't even know existed on planet Earth, and the way that I could feel in love with him and the way that he loved me back. And then I lose him to suicide.
Well, that was some of the foreshadowing, I guess, the red and gold angel gave you about your path, but also your obstacles along the way. And it seems like even if we feel enlightened and we have unconditional love for folks and we are connected and we're a medium, that doesn't change the rules of the game for us. We are still going to have these bumps and bruises along the way. And you might even meet each one of them with unconditional love for everyone, realizing that everyone is actually a soul here. But the problem is they're also a role. There's a soul and a role, right? And the role could be this villain that's delivering vengeance to you. So you have unconditional love for their soul. You just don't care for their role at all. And this is an important topic because not only is it, I hear about 80% of the folks that have NDEs after that experience do go through a separation. Mm-hmm. And that's because their life has changed so much. They're just in different frequencies and they have just different paths, and so off they go. So that's true, but it's also very valuable for those that are watching this, that are going through or have recently gone through, or maybe it's been a while, they've gone through a divorce and they're getting that vengeance loaded on them. Or maybe they're the one loading the vengeance on someone else. Both perspectives are interesting to kind of look at. What's your advice to folks that are going through it or have gone through it that got vengeance, piled on them? How do they go through it with a smile?
I don't know that you can go through with a smile. There were definitely days that I had a lot of tears. That is a really big ask because I'm playing human too. Here's what I will tell you. You've got to feel it. It's real. You've got to feel the sadness of it, the grief of it, the anger that comes out of you feeling it. It's all part of the process of what we're meant to feel and learn and know. But the deeper reason is so that we understand ourselves more.
Yeah. So forget the smile part. It's more let that whole pain wash over you. Experience the whole thing. Don't miss any of it. Mm-hmm. But don't extend the suffering beyond what's necessary. Feel the pain entirely. Work through the entire thing. Sit there after the pain is washed and gone and say, what did I learn from that? Pick yourself up, then put your smile on and go back into the world.
100%. And this is true for grief too. I mean, because I want to say this. As a medium, I get to work with a lot of people who are obviously in a lot of deep grief, and they've had things that no human would think is okay. Parents losing children, all of those things. But you have to allow yourself to feel it. And then as you allow to feel it, you then allow yourself to process it and move through it, right? The last thing any of our loved ones want on the other side for us is for us to stay stuck in our grief, for us to not take the opportunity to laugh, to smile, to live, and to take the next step forward. And I understand because I didn't have any way to bypass my grief, even though I was a medium. When my life partner passed by suicide, I didn't. If there was a secret tool or trick I could share, I would give it to you. There was no way around it or over it. It was literally just through it, step by step.
I think it is through it. It's like we plan these lives ahead of time. We have this life blueprint that's filled with all these little bumps along the way. Sometimes it feels like you get caught into some bump that's so crazy awful and you're just going, this is just too much, or this is terrible. And you look up and you go, why? And then you might have a good day after that. And you go, oh, well, thanks for the good day. I needed the relief. Now I'm back into it. So it's almost, if you attempt to have that conversation, it feels like there's a little give and go. But the fact is, you still have these bumps to go over. I'm going to give you a day off, but now you got to get over that bump. Let it wash over you. Let experience it. When this particular physical manifestation is done, you'll have all these little check marks, all sorted out, the things and the reasons that you came here for. And, it depends because everyone creates their own life blueprint, and some really load on the bumps and some have the, maybe fewer bumps. And I guess we can actually witness that. Well, I do have this question, this series of questions that I have for you. It's called Heart's First Whisper, and it allows you to share from your heart and not really use your mind or your thoughts. It's kind of a speed round, if you will. Okay. What do you think of that?
I love that.
Oh, good. All right. Well, here we go. The first question is, and this is about friendship, not throne, as you mentioned earlier. In 2006, when you saw Jesus arrived, like my best friend, not demanding worship, what shifted in how you related to God or Source after that on a daily basis?
I absolutely felt loved and perfect the way that I was. Like there was no need to try to be perfect. I already was loved, accepted, and perfect exactly the way that I was.
And in this case, if you're not judged, that's the unconditional love. There's no judgment required in that.
Yeah.
Is that a lesson that you can learn by seeing Jesus with no judgment, give you unconditional love? Can you turn into this crazy world of contrast that we live in and attempt to do that as often as you can?
Oh my gosh, yes. It makes your life so much easier when you start to do that.
Yeah, oftentimes you find the life is kind of a mirror, and if you greet it with a smile and a heart, oftentimes it reflects that back.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while you'll run into someone with a broken mirror, but first attempt is always the best.
Yeah.
Well, the second question I have for you is the choice moment, okay? So in 2011, time stopped, and you were asked to stay or go. What knowing made you choose to stay, and how did that decision echo in you years after?
Well, I knew I wasn't done wanting to be my kid's mom. I knew that I wanted to stay longer and have that experience. And then being given the information that, and I was supposed to be a medium too, because I could kind of already do that, It just made sense. And what it did was it expanded on the purpose that I already knew I had, which was to be a mom to these 3 kids. And now it was like, and there is this beautiful pearl that I'm supposed to share with the world.
And you did. So you were sharing your motherhood skills and that biological connection to those humans. Beautiful. And then the mediumship, how did that evolve? Who did they come to you? Did you put a website together and reach out, or both?
Yeah, so I started with mentoring. And then after that, the first year I spent reading for people I didn't know. I kept telling all my friends, send me people I don't know. I just got to make sure I'm getting it and I'm right. And then I did testing and became a certified medium just to make sure that I was where I wanted to be. Yes, started a website, word of mouth, and here I am.
Well done. And this day with our hyper-connected world on the internet, anyone looking for those services and those that are supposed to find you do find you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, the next question, the radio dial that you talked about, you described spirit communication like tuning in stations. Angels are at channel 111, of course, and life guides at another. So what's a simple way a viewer can tune in their station today and confirm that they're not imagining it?
We really need to find that moment where we get our insights. So for some people, it might be going on a run, other people in the shower, other people meditation, a long walk, whatever it is. Find the moments where you get your aha and start using them with intention. So if you have a question for grandma who's in spirit realm, before you go on the drive or the run, ask grandma, okay, grandma, before I go on this drive, please give me the answer to this question, or life guides or angels or whatever it is that you're looking to connect with. But we're going to start living life more intentionally because all of these stations are available to us, but we have to tune in. We have to be a frequency, a vibrational match for them.
Wow. So on a daily basis, throughout the day, constantly have that conversation, share, talk, ask. It's so amazing because if this was taught to children when they were 2, 3, 4, 5, it would be baked in. They say up through the age of 7, children are these little recording machines, and everything that they're learning around them is going into their subconscious recording, and then they play those back as reactions the rest of their life. But imagine if this had been trained in those early years.
Yeah, it would be a different world.
It would, but that's not good because we're here for a world of contrast and opposition and angst, and so that's why we're here. So anyway, next question, validation and healing. So the 911 recording changed your son's story of himself, and that brings a tear to your eye. What other validation moments have most surprised you in readings or in life?
I was reading for an RN, and she had 8 kids, was working full time. Her mom was in hospice, and she was run into the ground. So as I was reading for this woman, Mother Teresa came in, and I was a little surprised because I hadn't had her show up in a reading. I was like, I have Mother Teresa here. And she said, oh yeah, I worked with her in Calcutta. So they actually had a human connection in this lifetime too. But Mother Teresa came in with the most beautiful message, and she said she never lost sight of herself, because if she had, she wouldn't have been able to help all the other people that she helped. And she was very clear to this beautiful RN that it was like, your ship is going down. The whole airplane analogy, put your oxygen mask on first, right? But that was one of the things that I really realized. So we think in our human form that we are here to serve the world, that the more people I feed or whatever help, like it gives me value. But that's not what Mother Teresa was saying. She's saying, first and foremost, we're here to serve our soul. So my soul chose to be a medium in this lifetime. By honoring that, the ripple effect is I help other people with that gift.
Yeah, that's really important, because I think for all mothers, fathers, just grandmothers, grandfathers, just really all people in general, it's important to know, put your mask on first, before you help others. It's also interesting, if you look back to your childhood and all the crazy things that might have happened to you, those are the things that formed you as a person. And oftentimes parents, when they have children, they're trying to protect their child from any of those sort of, trauma things that are programmed into their blueprint of their life. Some of those things have to happen. And if you guard them too much, that's probably not good. Now, clearly you have to be a responsible parent, but you also have to let your children experience their lives. So if you're a mother of 8, first of all, put your mask on first, for sure. You can't help anybody. And then realize, help as much as you can without draining yourself. And those children need to have their lives also.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that brings us to the next question, which is cost of calling. Okay. So your guides warned that following this path could cost relationships. So what did choosing the calling teach you about love, boundaries, and faith?
Oh my gosh, that is such a big question. There have been so many times in my life where the human side of me has said, I chose this path at what cost, right? Because the mediumship cost me my marriage. It cost me some friends. It cost me some things that I enjoyed in my life, that were comfortable, things that I liked. And then Gary transitioned by suicide. And I thought, is this also part of the cost? Because I understood my soul plan with him, which wasn't that he was guaranteed to transition that way, but that if he did, because I was a medium, I would be able to help more people with it than maybe the average person. So what is the cost of the calling? In the human form, it does feel like there's a lot at times. But on a soul level, I know that I signed up for this. I chose these things. There's no one to blame, because it's not blame. It's about a soul having a human experience and learning to navigate the contrast in this earth realm, so that I can help other people learn to navigate the contrast in their earth realm too.
Right. I hadn't really thought about that. The fact that you had a direct experience with Gary transitioning in that way, which meant that now you had firsthand experience, or as people would come to you, as I'm sure they do, to connect to their loved one on the other side who is also, they've gone through that experience, you're going to be even more helpful than you otherwise would because of that. So that is a hefty price to pay. And it sounds like your higher order objective is to be this medium. And so you've chosen some pretty tough pills to swallow to be a great medium. That's amazing. Then we go to number 6, which is the angel Madeline. How do angels present differently, light, form, or telepathy? And do they adapt to our expectations?
Sometimes they do adapt to our expectations, and other times they surprise us, right? I do believe angels can take human form. So sometimes we'll hear stories about someone who had a car wreck and someone comes up and helps them, and then they just mysteriously vanish, right? Angels can take on human form. The wings made of light were really significant, because all of us are actually made of light, believe it or not. And the angelic presence just emits it beyond what you could even imagine. So they're telepathic. They understand English. We don't have to talk to them telepathically. We can speak out loud to them. They are truly here to help us, but they are definitely moving through this earth, space, and time with us. And they can take on human form at times too.
Yeah, and it does seem like your ability to connect, you've connected sort of via all forms. But you would probably admit that it is the case that probably most people aren't able to do that, and you wouldn't have a term called medium if everyone could do it, right? And so for those that can't do it, certainly they can reach out to you for assistance. Is there any advice you would give them for something that they would actually do to be more connected?
Let me just start with this. I think we all have the ability to be connected. It's just some people will take it further than others, right? So everyone can be connected to a certain extent, like math. Everyone can balance their checkbook, but not everyone's going to be a physicist, right? And we have this whole span. So we can train it. You can take classes. You can really practice. And when I say this about practicing, if it's your angels you're wanting to connect to or your loved one in spirit, we need to set up a routine. You've got to set time for that quiet time, whether it's meditation or the run or whatever it is that's going to quiet your mind. And it has to be practiced very regularly. So don't just do it for 3 hours on Saturday and then not again for 3 weeks, right? It's more important to do it for 5 to 10 minutes a day. But we're going to use that time in that space with intention. So if this is your angel you want to connect with, okay, guardian angel, I'm headed out on my run. Here's my question. Or also, sometimes I like to ask spirit, what do I need to know? Because we don't know what we need to know all the time, right? So sometimes I like to let it be open and see what information will come through. But we all have this ability. There are definitely ways to train it more, and that's really about quieting our mind. One of the things that the angel realm really brought to my attention not too long ago, we live in a world that's very fear-based right now. If you turn on the news or whatever, social media, there's a lot of fear, a lot of fear, a lot of fear. Fear roars. Intuition, angels, life guides, loved ones, they whisper, right? So notice, are you listening to the roar or are you listening to the whisper?
Wow. And sometimes, you'd say it's hard to hear the whisper over the roar. And that's where it takes that intention you were talking about, and maybe some discipline to turn those things off. It's too easy to get sucked into them. Turn them off, find the quiet moments so that you can look inward and connect with the whisper. It kind of feels like that's what I'm hearing here. And this, brings us into 7, our final question, which is really an everyday practice. So for someone maybe that is deep in grief from all this fear that's going on, what's a 7-day micro practice to notice support and what not to force?
Number 1, we've got to start doing what feels good. Is it sitting outside quietly with your cup of coffee in the morning? Is it going to bed early? Is it lighting a candle? Is it saying a prayer? What is it that makes you feel good? Start with what feels good. Is it the morning run? Okay. We've got to get our vibration in the energy of feeling good, right? So that we can tune into that channel of loved ones, angels, life guides, hope, all of those things. So start with what feels good emotionally, mentally, then give yourself a little bit of quiet time and then allow yourself to flow. If you're a visual person, you can see yourself on a beach getting a message from an angel or, the mountains or whatever it is that works for you. Or if you are somebody who likes to hear, go ahead and literally feel the energy on your ears opening so that it's easier for you to hear the angelic messages or whatever it is that you're wanting to connect to. In the world that we live in right here, you will find what you're looking for. So if you are looking for everything going wrong, all the fear surrounding us and all the hatred and ugliness, you're going to find it, and then you're going to find it pretty easily. But if you stop and you tune your attention into what's going right, the good stories, the sunshine, the butterflies, the puppy, whatever it is, in those little ways, you're starting to tune into the frequency that spirit is on.
That's a great frequency. And I like that, what you say, you will find what you're looking for. So be careful what you're looking for. Again, back to that intention. Make sure you know your intention is to look for the whisper and not the roar. You'll find more enjoyment there, potentially, I would suspect. But it's up to you. Everyone's an individual. Now, let me ask you this. What if what they're looking for is you? How do they find you?
I love that. They can find me on my website, Michelle Clare, CLARE.net. There they can book individual readings. They can see upcoming events. Most of them right now, I think, are online. I might have an in-person or two on there. I love to connect with people. I love to do angel readings, life guide readings, soul plan readings, mediumship. Normally in a session, we can get some of all of that in, or we can focus on specific things if they would like.
How do you do the one-to-one? Is it the case that every time someone contacts you, you're able to help them in some way, mediumship or otherwise?
No medium can make the loved ones on the other side come through. If for some reason they're not coming through that day, there's nothing any medium can do about that, right? But what I will tell you is that your loved ones want that connection with you. So more often than not, they will come through. The other thing that I can say about that is your angels, your life guides, the information in your energy field, your soul plan. There's so much information around each person about not just loved ones on the other side, but where they're going, why they're here, why they had that trauma, what's coming up. Do I move? Do I get a new job? When's my soulmate coming in, right? There's so much information around each person that I promise you people always leave with a lot.
Got it. All right, good. And this is all done over Zoom remotely, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, so with that, is there anybody hanging around behind me here?
You've got some big angels behind you. I will tell you that. You're definitely protected on this journey. The next thing that I'm going to tell you is I see a lot of, they're showing it to me like water, but it's spreading out. But it feels good. So your reach is spreading. I expect more to be coming up for you next year. It's a big year for you. They're telling me to say you're going to have some new beginnings, but it feels very productive and in a good way. Sometimes I say new beginnings and people get worried. So I always want to make sure that you have that energy, but new beginnings for sure for you, a larger reach.
Wonderful. I am definitely the last person to be afraid of new beginnings. That's for sure. I love and am open-minded about so much. I welcome things that come on, and typically I try to meet them with unconditional love, with that smiling face, and hopefully the universe, like I said, smiles back with the mirror that it very well and oftentimes is. And I definitely have a smile for you today because this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you so very much for being here. It's funny. It's like, you're sharing these moments, with such clarity and such heart. The audience is going to love it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me on to share this with everyone today. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you. And I would love for folks to go into the description and see the links to connect with you, because I think they're going to find great value in that for sure. And I'm sure they loved this episode. So, to the listeners, if you're grieving or curious about your own radio dial, you can try Michelle's 7-day noticing practice this week, right? And connect with her and find out more. And if her insights moved you, please like and subscribe and share and leave a note, of how this made you feel in the comments. I get down there and reply to every single comment, so feel free. And if the episode spoke to your heart, pass it along to someone who could use a little light today. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and go beyond the illusion to discover your true self. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.